Good evening, everybody. It's midnight. Welcome to another episode of Brian Plays. We're gonna go arcade style with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the official arcade version, not the one that was ported onto the NES. But I did show that video a few weeks ago. So if you want, you can check that out. I wanted to show that game first, so you can get an idea of how inferior it was by the time I got to the real arcade game. And here's the beginning scene. It was based off the animated series, which began airing in late 1987. And this arcade came out in 1989. So obviously it could do a lot more than the cartridge version. And this game had 4-player capabilities rather than just the 2 for the NES. And the game has better sound and music and graphics. So if you're a big fan of the NES version and you only really remember this game from actually being in the arcades or in movie theater lobbies, so it's good to actually see the original arcade version. And the only time you really could get a chance to play this again at home was on the Xbox Live arcade in 2007. This game was available in its true form, so that was really the first time you could play it again. See, it just looks a lot more smoother and nicer. And there's even voice acting in this version. So in this game, each turtle is slightly different. Donatello has slower attacks but a longer range. Michelangelo and Raphael have faster attacks but shorter range. And Leo is the most, he's well-rounded and he has average range and speed. But the 8-way joystick on the arcade, it controlled the movements of the turtles, and then you had a jump button and an attack button that makes you hit anything in front of you with your weapon. But you can also do some combinations. The turtles can throw the enemies overhead, and if you press jump and attack at the same time, a special attack is performed. Usually it's a sweep and jump attack with your weapon, and if you're Raphael, he rolls along the ground and finishes up with a kick. See those guys that dropped the bombs? Those weren't in the NES version. They weren't hiding around the wall there. But if you've never seen the arcade version, you know, upon a quick look, it looks like Turtles in Time. But that's how the arcade used to look. I was actually looking on Amazon. They actually sell the Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet. It's a 2-in-1. And The one on Amazon, it might have been an original cabinet because they didn't have anything cheaper than $4,100. But if you go to Walmart, they actually have the Ninja Turtles cabinet, and it does feature this game and the Turtles in Time, and that was $369. So if you're a big fan or you're a collector of retro games, that might be an investment that's worthwhile. Now, I mentioned in the NES version of the game about the additional levels, so I don't really have to bring that up again. But you'll see in this playthrough what's missing that you see in the NES version, but you also see what's new, or what was in the original. Now in the NES you had a lot of Pizza Hut product placement, and Pizza Hut worked well with the Ninja Turtles because of their love for pizza, and in that version they actually had a coupon for a free pie. And you can see this area is a lot more detailed. You have the graffiti too, keep out. That's the real voice of Bebop. Now this stage has a lot different music than the NES version. And even the water is purple instead of blue. But the sprites are much bigger and clearer in this game. Even the weapons that the foot soldiers hold have more detail. You have a lot of nice details with the rats in the background. And at the time, this was one of the most popular arcades in the late 80s and even early 90s still. There would always be a line of kids by this arcade. And I think you saw that same popularity with the Simpsons arcade and the X-Men arcade. And the beat-em-up style was very popular. See, the NES version, those poles coming down are so small, they're like toothpicks. But the detail is really nice in this game. Now, when I was growing up, the big four that I used to play for the Ninja Turtles were the 3 games on the NES and Turtles in Time. So, after this game, I'll just have to show you Ninja Turtles 3 in Manhattan and the Turtles in Time. But I know the Ninja Turtles have gone through so many reincarnations and redesigns and overhauls. And I know there's a lot of games out, you know, over the past 2 decades that I don't really know about. So if there's a game that you like and you want me to showcase, I'll be glad to. It's a great metal sound effect. Now that's a different scene. Originally you saw Baxter Stockman, and you would normally have the snow level now, but that was just an add-on to the NES version. So you get to see the parking lot, and it's a lot more colorful, and there's a lot more details added. Now, the more turtles you play with, the more enemies you'll see, the more action that appears. So, I would say that the difficulty is at its maximum if you're playing with 3 other friends. And like at the beginning, and when they show the attracts screen, they have the bios of the turtles. And you notice Leonardo's 16 years old, and the other turtles are all each 15. And the tallest turtle is 5'1", and Donatello is actually 4'9", and they only weigh 150 pounds at the most. So it's interesting seeing these turtles, if you were to run into them, how young they really are, and how I wouldn't say puny, but they're not as heavy as you would think, and they're certainly not tall either. kind of like the pirate ship in Turtles in Time. And I believe they can infight with each other. Might have had some connection issues. I was saying it's funny how the characters in this game fit the personalities from the cartoon when they can infight with each other. If you ever go back and watch the cartoon, it's really funny how these two act. Almost like the Three Stooges, and the third Stooge is Shredder. And you always knew Shredder as a menacing character, depending on if you read the comics or watched the movies. But in the cartoon, Shredder is really a fool. I mean, there's a lot of comedy in the cartoon. And people either love it or weren't big fans of that. I remember when the second movie came out, fans were dying to have Bebop and Rocksteady in it, and there were rumors that there were two creatures, but it turned out to be Tokka and Razor, and people were disappointed because it should have been Bebop and Rocksteady. $2021. 1 year away. Yeah, hopefully with that interruption, the video's still gonna be alright. So what I do is I usually go live on Facebook first, and then eventually I put the video up on YouTube. So if you search my name and on YouTube, you'll find my channel right away. So if you could give it a like, I'd appreciate a subscribe. I'll have a lot more content on there as the days go by. If I go live every other night, it's just another video each night that will go on YouTube. So after a while, I'll probably have over 100 videos up. And, the quality isn't going to be the greatest. I just started this for fun. And I record off of the TV. I'm not connected on the computer. But I basically wanted these videos so anybody can watch and bring back that nostalgia they had for the games. And the purpose of these videos is to show you the game from beginning to end, and also to provide some history and background information about the subject matter, and if you need hints or tips to the game, I like to provide that also, and from my own experience of playing the game. And for beat 'em ups like this, there's not a big learning curve. You basically have to know the enemy's patterns and figure out which attack works best in what situation. Like, I would usually leave the pizza on the screen until I really need it. Apparently Shredder is a big fan of antique and old-fashioned cars. Did that foot soldier kill himself? He got hit with a tire. I think a level like this was sorely needed in this game to break up the repetitiveness. Those copters look so much bigger. They have so much more detail than the NES. See that foot soldier up there? So in an earlier Ninja Turtles video, I mentioned that there was a fan-made beat-em-up game based on the series, particularly the cartoon. and I couldn't get the whole name. I couldn't remember, but it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Rescue Palooza. Now, if you can go online and search that, you can download it. But it's an awesome game. It has you have an overworld map, and you can go to different locations. And if you're a big fan of the games, they harken back to those levels. Like, you have a beach level, and it resembles the level 1 of the Ninja Turtles 3. And basically, there's a whole bunch of levels that remind you of other games. And then there's levels like Channel 6 News that resembles the animated series. But I would recommend downloading that game. And in each level, there's all characters from the cartoon. I mean, Napoleon Bonafrog, and basically any character you can think of. Any minor character, anything they made a figure out of. You can actually see those characters in the game and unlock them, and then you can play as them. But it's a free fan-made game, but it pays homage to the franchise. I think those enemies might be the hardest in the game. You gotta constantly jump around. Yeah, but I would highly recommend that game. It has voice clips and basically everything. It's like a giant collection. Kind of like Super Smash Brothers, only with the turtles. In the style of a beat 'em up like this. Now you can hit that barrel next to a bunch of enemies and blow it up. Like that. I believe in the NES version, those robots only shot in one direction. So if you just got behind them, it'd be easy. That's the Granitor. It's a Stone Warrior from Dimension X. That's pretty similar to the NES. Although the NES, the groan, the death groan of the bosses from here on out are very funny. So you don't get the dojo level. You go right to the Technodrome now. this level, they basically throw out, they throw every foot soldier at you, and there's a lot of traps. If you still were playing on the same quarter, you are a super Ninja Turtle player. And that's another cool thing about porting over the arcade version in its true form onto a console. I mean, you get to actually see the game from beginning to end without worrying about quarters. Of course, you got the roadkill Rodneys after you. Those were always annoying enemies. Basically, those orange triangles were the hint that let you know that there was going to be a trap coming up. Whose pizza boxes were those? Did the foot soldiers have a pizza party and they left the boxes with pizza in? Sometimes it's hard to justify food as health in video games, especially when you're in the enemy territory and you see food lying around. Kind of like when you find the chicken leg inside the wall in Castlevania. And that is General Trag. You just basically follow that pattern. You want to stay on the same vertical plane. I guess it's kind of cheap, but you gotta survive for the next part. Alright, here's the showdown. I think the relationship between Krang and Shredder in the cartoon is one of the funniest in all of cartoons. They're basically like a married couple. You could do the same little vertical plane dancing with them. Kind of a goofy way to win, but it works. And this is the final fight. You don't want to get hit with that beam. You do want to keep jumping and kicking. He does telegraph his moves before he shoots the blue beam, so you do have ample time to avoid it. There you go. If you reach this part in the arcade in front of a bunch of envious onlookers, you were the king of the neighborhood. Vaporized to milkshake? Very clever. And of course the credit sequence is completely different, except for the music. So, you know, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough of the arcade version. Because a lot of people only have old memories of the game. They're so used to the NES port. But I think it's pretty cool to go back and check this game out. So, thanks everybody for watching. I will see you soon.